Hi everyone, thank you for joining us in today's Startup Hack Work from Home and Right on Cloud webinar, presented by Scape Entrepreneurship and Google Business Group. We have Google Business Group community expert Jimmy from Devo team and Andrew from CloudAce today to share with us more on how you could get connected with your team from anywhere and also stay accountable and productive. Have fun learning. Over to you, Jimmy.
Thank you, Alice, and thank you, Andrew. I'm just going to say a few words around GDB Singapore, and then I'm going to just go on with my session around the Google Meet. So the Google Business Group, it's a initiative from Google, but it's actually led by people like myself and Andrew. There are about 100, I think, about 100 GBG communities globally in over 30 countries. We are fortunate in Singapore to have one of the community managers here in Singapore. So we're getting a lot of support from Google locally. The GBG's community is basically here for entrepreneurs to connect, with like-minded people, to learn how new technologies can help them grow, and of course also be inspired. And I think Andrew's session later today will inspire you to see what you can build next. So a quick introduction of myself, and I'm going to give it back to Andrew for a few seconds before I continue. But my name is Jimmy, and I am the country manager for Devo Team Cloud Services here in Singapore. Normally, my team and I, we are located in a co-working space down by Cross Street Exchange in Chinatown. But the past few months, we have spent it in our homes, of course, like everyone else. But I spent the first 18 months of me starting at Devo Team about 5 years ago. I was working remotely, and I actually only got to meet my CEO and the whole team after about 8 months. We are a video company, video first company even back then. So you could say that I have been working remotely even before it got popular recently, a few months ago. Andrew, would you like to introduce yourself first?
Yeah, sure. Hi, everyone. Good evening, everyone. Thanks. We've got people still constantly joining us, which is good, up to 21 people now. So my name is Andrew. I work at a company called CloudAce. I'm also one of the co-founders of the Google Business Group for Singapore. I recently handed over leadership to Jimmy recently. Perhaps just a quick call out also for Ping Ping, who's on the line, who's one of our leadership team who runs the Women Will Group, which is a group within Singapore. That's actually the reason we originally connected with Scape. And if it hadn't been for COVID, we'd have had our Women Will event in March, but we'll have to revisit that. So in terms of working from home, perhaps similar to Jimmy, so the headquarters of my company is in Japan. I joined in late 2018, and I went to Japan for about 5 days in late 2018, and I haven't been since. So that's almost a year and a half. So for me, also working remotely is pretty much the norm. Even one of our local team members here in Singapore was living not too far in the north, but it was in Toa Payoh, which I don't even know if you consider the north. But when he joined us, he asked if he could mainly work from home, and I said, yeah, I don't see why not. We're kind of location neutral, and so the transition for us to working remotely has not been too much of a challenge. And if anything, there's been a lot of benefits from it, and we're even having a discussion with the team now about whether we even need our office space after everything's subsided. So I hope we can share a few tips tonight from our own experience and from the tools and technologies we know. And I look forward to talking to you a little bit later on about Google Cloud, which is not specifically related to working at home, but it's a technology we should all know. It's a technology that will help people grow businesses. And obviously, because it is in the cloud, it does lend itself to being location neutral as well.
All right. Okay. So super excited to talk about Google Meet. They are constantly updating and coming out with new features, especially now. There's no time like now for video conferencing, and whatever you're using Teams or Zoom, or maybe not Zoom because of security, but whatever tool you're using, I think video is like going to be the new normal. And like Andrew said, I mean, we see companies today that are, considering, should we even, have an office as we, go back to normal. So I'm actually going to just skip to that. So like the way we have worked for, how we consume information, how we make decisions, this has changed dramatically, and especially, since a few months back. And I mean, as a result, employees, the expectations on technology have changed and evolved, right? I mean, we need to have really stable, platform to work on, and I can assure you, and I'm pretty sure that you guys have experience from, before this, I mean, having meetings in general, and of course, having video meetings. We have this thing called video bingo. So it's like you have a 9 grid, I think it is, and if you hear someone says, "Can you hear me?" you kind of check that one off. I think 9 out of 10 times, back in the days, this is what kind of happened. So what I'm trying to say is that work has shifted from a place to a space, and I think this also kind of resonates a bit with what Andrew mentioned just now, that we might not even go back to office. Do we need it? All we need is a space. So yeah, I think I'm going to touch a bit more on that in my coming slides as well. But some studies shows that employees, I think around 50 to 60% of the time, they are not at their desk, and this was even before COVID-19. So the data states clearly that we are shifting to a workplace to a workspace. What do we do after the, I was going to say 4th of May, but sorry, it's the 1st of June now, if we are allowed to, go back to our offices. I would foresee that we have to go back and kind of do a reverse exit. So we will, do a moonwalk and start again with the whole, social distancing, and hopefully, with time, we will be able to be back. I see a lot on social media as well. I've had a conversation with the MD of Fave on LinkedIn, and he's also considering, should I scrap my office, once we go back to normal, whatever that means, or should we go remote only? But then the question is, how will that affect, our social development? We're bonding in the office over coffee. We have our lunch kaki. We do after works. Or we just hang by the water cooler. And, there are ways that we can obviously, imitate these interactions online. We can have video meetings, video calls. We can do hangouts. At my company, we do regular coffee breaks together. I have breakfast once a week with my team. And then we have, different layers of different video, alternatives, what you can just, jump into a conversation if you want to. We have some of our team in Europe. They're actually doing Netflix together after work. So I forgot what it was called now, but I can find it and send it out to you after this, where you can basically do Netflix together, so to say. So if someone pauses the video, it pauses for everyone, and you can watch Ozark or Game of Thrones or whatever you like, right? But I would say that maybe some departments can go remotely, or some companies altogether. Some might go remote first and use more hot desking, perhaps, or like temporary meeting spaces. I heard rumors that there are some kind of pods coming out as well. But I think it's important to do team bonding, face-to-face interactions, we need it as humans at some point in time. So there's no really a silver bullet for this. So I think this has to be, a decision that you guys make, obviously, around your team and your situation. So I think listen to your team, create your own remote X, it could be remote preferred or remote encouraged, or, remote harmonized, or anything remote, right? So I think, talk to your team, look for a balance that work for you guys. But I'm definitely sure that some sort of video or remote work will be what we do next, so to say. I touched a little bit on this as well just now, where the way we do meetings I think if we're going to do, 9 out of 10 interactions now will be, besides having lunch with your wife or your family at home, it's going to be online. The quality of the service has to be fantastic, or, it has to be reliable, and it has to be on point. So, and looking back again, personal experience, it's not always there. And after working from home the past 2 weeks, I have done a few collaborations with, non-Google users, and been forced into anything from like a Blue Jeans meeting or a Microsoft Teams and Skype and Zoom. And I would say that, and obviously I'm a bit biased because we are a Google Cloud partner, but the ease of use to use like Google Hangouts, or sorry, Google Meet in this case, is superior to the other ones. Maybe there are features that we are missing. You can't blur the background at the moment. Sure, I had a fun meeting with Alice the other day, and her kid was running around in the background, pretty cute. So there's always things that will improve how we interact online, and how we do it with family and other things in the background. So, but these are things that are coming as well. And I'm understanding that I'm not really getting to the point there, but I think the primary reasons meetings are not really considered that are considered ineffective, or that they are poorly organized. The non-agenda invites you get on calendars. Should you take the meeting in the first place? You don't know, right? So I think it's important to take that into consideration too. And again, using good quality stuff is really important. So let's move on to the next chapter. Okay, the case for video first culture, face-to-face is best. Okay, and I think, we can take this example, this meeting as an example, that, having a video conferencing, and this happens a lot, people join you and then they don't have the camera on. I think if you don't have the camera on, then you are missing a bit of the point, right? You can't see people's, engagement, or you can't see their, facial expressions. You might be able to see me now, I'm moving my hand, it's a total different feeling or interaction over a video call. So I know Google has this as part of their DNA. Camera always on is one of their work rules, so to say. And I really think that it inspires also team collaboration and productivity in general, if you can see people's sentiment and what they are doing in a meeting. So. Okay, so Google actually claims at a different slide deck I have that they pioneered video conferencing. I'm not sure if that is totally true, but I know that they have spent the past 10 years focusing on this, and they have had different kind of consumer versions versus the commercial ones or the business ones. You might have heard of Duo. If you have a Google Home, you can, make phone calls with Duo or the Hub, for instance. Meanwhile, for businesses, if you have G Suite, you're used to Hangouts or Google Meet, as it's called now. So, but I think the importance on this slide will be that Google has put down the hours to really work on. Definitely security is one thing, but also on to make it as simple as possible to use. And they definitely have the infrastructure for it. And they are using the same infrastructure as Google themselves are using for their system. That's kind of what they're selling, right? So we know the quality is there. They have distributed teams. I don't have to be concerned that I'm dialing up to a server in Ireland, for instance, if I'm using maybe a different solution. Okay, so Google Meet is part of G Suite, and this is where the collaboration part comes in as well. You don't only get the video conferencing, you also get collaboration tools on file sharing and email and all those features. Okay, so Google Meet claims that they are friction-free meeting solutions that bring people together face to face. And I think I basically touched on this already. It's not a new thing. I just think that Google has a very affordable, scalable, and integrated video meeting solution. I think also in addition to creating a more immersive workspace and productive meetings. Meet is also easy to manage from a administrative point of view as well. So you don't have to be, an IT pro to administrate, Google in general, I would say. Okay, I'm just going to jump this. I think there is we're going to do a quick kind of, not a demo, but it's a walkthrough. I have some slides around that too. But one of the highlights for me, at least, I'm a big fan of my calendar. I spend so much time in my calendar, so it's almost insane. I'm a time blocker. I do. I tried something new actually 2 weeks ago. And this is thanks to COVID-19 because I realized that I'm having too many meetings. So I'm having a meeting-free Tuesday. All the meetings that I need to have, I try to do them on Mondays and Fridays, and maybe Wednesdays, Thursdays, and then I'm having a totally meeting-free Tuesday, which is perfect because then I can be more productive, Like say if I have, unless it's like a back-to-back meetings, then you're kind of in the meeting mode. You can, you have that kind of mindset, but, for each, disruption or distraction, you are losing, about 25 minutes of your life. To get back into, focus and productivity. So I've been trying it for 2 weeks, and I really, really enjoy it. And I would recommend, everyone to do it as well. Try to have a meeting-free day and be really productive on that day. Obviously, you don't have to pick Tuesday, but that was kind of what fitted into my schedule and my life. So, but basically, like when you're at work, make the most make time most valuable. You have to respect other people's time, regardless of time zones. We make tools that make scheduling really, really easy with colleagues because they have it's all AI in the background for your calendar. So if it comes to meeting rooms or to find the best time for your colleagues, Google will give you a suggestion actually when you create the invite, which is perfect. So if you have been using the same meeting room for like 5 times, then Google will suggest that for you, or Google will suggest that you have 10 people in this conference. You probably need a meeting room with 10 seats at least, right? So there's a bit of intelligence in there as well. And I think this slide also shows that the integration with calendar is pretty brilliant when it comes to Google Meet and Google Calendar as well. Okay, another thing which is pretty cool is Google Chat, and you can tell Google Chat is either if you by voice, or you can key in to ask Google to book a meeting with everyone in your chat group. So then Google will check in your calendar when you're free, or like when everyone is free, and book the meeting for you, and will automatically obviously add a video conferencing link and everything that you need. That is pretty cool as well. Okay, so let's take a quick tour. This is just some of the basic features of Google Meet, and let's see how we can make some meetings more easier. So I'm guessing that you guys joined in today. You noticed that there was nothing to download, no executive file or MSI package or add-on or anything. You could probably just click and you will be in the meeting. So I think that one of the biggest barriers to change is often culture, and people don't like to adopt technologies that are unfamiliar or hard to use. And I think Google has made it super simple to use their products, and Meet is one of those very great examples also. So I think success of a digital transformation ultimately comes down to people and how they work. And Meet makes connecting with coworkers, your customers, your partners, your students, whoever you are connecting with really, really easy. And again, no downloads, just tap the meeting link either in your calendar or in the email, and you are in. And also, of course, you noticed, and my screen here shows that as well, that before the meeting you get a live preview, so you can doll up your face a bit, check your hair, also to see maybe you have some stuff in the background. I actually had some clothes hanging behind me just now, which perfect, I need to remove that. So it's the small things in life that it makes it helpful for attendees and to feel more at ease to start using these The other one would be share your screen, and looking to other tools as well in comparison. I know some actually requires the organizer to invite you to be a presenter. You have 7 different settings you have to key in. If you did not do it before the meeting, you have to jump out the meeting and put it back, so to say. In the Google Meet, you can easily just click the button to share, and now you get a few options. You can share a tab, you can share the whole screen, or you can share a window. Now you can also share a tab and play a video if you would like to do that as well. So joining a meeting is easy. Clicking present now button, you'll be able to select whatever you want to share on your screen, and you don't have to share the whole screen. You can just share a specific item on the screen, which is perfect. So, and also to mention, actually, no wires required, obviously, and it works on web, it works on iOS, and it also works on Android devices. So it's not only Chrome browser or specific to Google products or something like that. You can use it on other operating systems as well. Another great feature about Meet is the adaptive layout function. I know everyone has been screaming about the Zoom tiles or Zoom layout. We call it the Brady Bunch tiles layout. It is actually coming to Google Meet in a near future, but for now there is actually a Chrome extension that you can download if you want to have the huge set of tile windows. But as a default, you have a few different layouts that you can use that you can choose from, and I think those are more than enough, and makes, again, using it very easy, because you can see people on one side, you can see your presentation, so super simple again to use. And again, I mean, all of this doesn't sound huge. I mean, it's not really a revolutionary feature, but we have seen that these features increase the engagement level of people. It helped them to work remotely and to stay connected. So okay, we also have something called closed captions, and I think this is very important, especially when it comes to if you have very diverse or maybe globally distributed teams. The small things again makes a big difference. So I am obviously not a English native speaking, and sometimes maybe people don't understand me, and it's good to actually have a closed caption on the screen so people can follow what I say, or I can follow what people say as well. Or of course, if you have people that maybe they can't hear, I mean, obviously closed captions are really important as well. I'm going to try to speed up a little bit, running out of time. So okay, so limitations are always important. We can do kind of sessions like this with up to 250 people, and then you can do 100,000 people live streaming using kind of over YouTube, so to say. So I mean, last year or maybe 2 years ago, we've had limitations of like 25 users or 50 users, or 100. So these limits are growing, and the reason it has been low and now kind of expanding is that quality of service is very important to Google. So they want us to be able to have 100 people and still have a great quality of video and audio. So that's why. But again, this shows kind of the scalability of Google's solution, but also of Google Meet as a product itself. Like we're doing today, we are recording the meeting. So you can record meetings or even live streams for later viewing. This is great. For us, we can share this link with you guys, and it automatically kind of ends up in our Google Drive, and then it will be sent out also to people that was invited to this meeting. So yeah, another easy to use function and very important feature. Okay, product meetings. Okay, okay. So this slide is more about how Google has integrated with G Suite, and I think we have already touched on that a little bit. So I'm just going to jump over to this one. Security first, again, very important. We have seen in the hotspot, Zoom is out there fighting the security issues that they have. Google is using this themselves. This is their in-house solution. They have all the intentions of keeping security to its highest. So yeah, I mean, I'm not doubting Google's security in any way here. So and the same thing with privacy. Like it's your data, it's your streaming, it's your content. Google is not watching you or us now. I mean, they have no access to this. And also Google security for themselves is also, again, very, very high. So I think this is kind of to recap a little bit of what we talked about now. The, reliable meetings are the, next best thing to, face-to-face. So if you have a reliable solutions, and I'm sounding like a parrot now, but, this is what it comes down to, right? Easy to use, fuss-free, secure, and I think that is what Google is all about. So, a quick thing also when it comes to meeting room solutions, and like when we go back to business, maybe hopefully, we have been using this for 1, 2, 3 months now. We are getting used to it. We love it, and some of us will still be working from home or remotely. How can we bring this into our office and continue using this frictionless or easy to use product? So Google actually have a couple of meeting room solutions. They are from BenQ. They have a Jamboard, which is basically a digital whiteboard, and then you have some smaller conference solutions, which you just hook up to your TV, and they have sized it to different sizes as well. But really simple to use. You come in, you click a remote control, and you are in the meeting. Yeah, I would actually consider having one at my house because it's super convenient. So available today is the Google Meet kits. So they have 2 bundles from Asus, and these are, I would say, the standard that most companies use. Also, a new one that came out, I mean, not new for this year, but last year, was from Logitech. They kind of added on their cameras and microphones on top of Google's Meet kit. So this is kind of an add-on that you can get. And then the Jamboard, which is from BenQ. This is also great because now you can also have a Google Meet session inside of Jamboard. So you can do whiteboarding, and then you can switch to your meeting as well. So it's very, very interactive and great for office spaces for sure. Okay, I'm quickly going to go through the ecosystem, and then I think I have one more slide before I hand over to Andrew. So it's helpful to see the way that teams use tools within G Suite to unify their communications. And because Meet is part of G Suite, it works with many of the G Suite tools that make meetings simpler and more efficient. So here are a few examples. I mentioned Calendar and Gmail before, and also Chat and Drive. So Drive stores your recorded meetings and auto save them. And then you can ask, the Meet chatbot in Chat to, create and schedule your time. And, you accept and decline the meetings in your inbox. And of course, there is a, obvious benefit of using Meet or, any video conferencing tool is less travel. So, that is one of the real life values that you get when you have these online events. So I'm going to leave this this summary of what we have, and then I'm going to hand over to Andrew because my time has come up.
Okay, sure. Actually, we got 5 more minutes. Do we maybe want to take a quick Q&A on this section? I know that possibly wasn't planned, but I think there's been a lot of information in there. My topic's going to be completely different. You do have a slide. There we go. It also gives a little bit of a refresh from presenter overload. So if anyone's got any questions, feel free to unmute your mic and ask them, or to post them in the chat, which is linked from the top right of the screen. And maybe when you start off, just say your name so we know who's talking. Any questions? We have a shy audience. Everyone's on a webinar. They feel like they're on television. What's your personal favorite feature of Meet Jimmy?
Oh, there's so many. I think the one I like now is actually that you can play a video and share the audio. I mean, I know it's a very simple feature, but it would enable me to do so many more things. I mean, I could pre-record a very good webinar, and then play that, and then do Q&A if I wanted to. I mean, it would make my life so much easier. Or just show a funny cat video with my team during our breakfast meetings that we have on Thursdays.
Okay, final call for questions for this section.
Maybe I can ask you a question, Andrew. So you mentioned that you might skip office altogether, maybe moving forward after this COVID. Do you mind elaborating a little bit more around that, or
Sure. Yeah. So yeah. I mean, well, for one, I've actually onboarded 2 people over the last 2 weeks. One person I met for a couple of hours in the morning to pass him his computer. The other person I haven't actually met in person.
Okay.
I guess maybe that's normal if you're hiring people overseas. But yeah, if you're hiring people in Singapore or locally, it's kind of unusual. But I feel in spite of not having to meet people in person, we've in the first few weeks, we built up like a really good team spirit. We have morning and evening meetings. And so while I find that those chance encounters throughout the day in the office are good, they're kind of also a little bit disruptive, and they can be less structured.
Yeah.
So I found that that's been quite effective. But as you were talking, I was just trying to think. So I think we're all going to start thinking about this now. There's 2 things that we can I'd like to add in as comments. One is that I heard a fact somewhere that it takes around 3 weeks for humans to kind of get used to a habit. I think that's just in general. So it'll be interesting to see. I know for many people working remotely is unusual and it's different and it doesn't come naturally. But sometimes, I mean, change is always difficult, and it's never natural. It's just the nature of change. But having this 3-week period that's now going to extend to, I guess, 8 weeks, it'll be interesting to see at the end of it how many people are used to kind of working remotely.
Yeah.
And then I think we do need to open up the discussion critically about, okay, what are we going to lose from being remote? And I think we've touched on a few things, but as you were talking, it just kind of dawned on me that I'm having meetings with the people I need to have meetings with. And so the relationships with those are really good. But one thing I think you get from the office is you kind of meet and talk with people that you don't really need to meet and talk with. But I mean, it could be someone from the finance department, or it could be someone from, I don't know, delivery or whatever, right? And you don't necessarily need to talk to those people, but you build up those relationships, like you say, because you meet them at the water cooler. And the question is, if those relationships aren't built up, naturally, are we going to lose out from that? Or is it something that I guess just happened, and more of people become more open to, I guess, meeting and connecting on a more of an objective-based basis? If you reach out to them, you're going to have something to reach out to them for, a specific objective or goal, and people are just going to be more open to that than they would have been previously. So I think that'll be an interesting discussion to have. As a technology fanboy, I kind of love the fact that the pandemic is kind of helping to drive technology adoption. There's obviously a lot of downsides, but I think we have to look at the positives and see what we can get out of this.
Yep, yeah, totally agree. And I know we are out of time, but one last question. So, what's one of the initiatives you guys are doing to maintain company culture over video? I mean, do you have, like we have, for instance, coffee breaks together, or do you have anything like that, or just?
I don't know. We have our weekly meetings. We try and keep those kind of a little bit fun as well. I don't know. Maybe it's. I was never that type anyway. Maybe I need to input more fun in the organization anyway.
Yeah.
But I think it maybe has made me more sensitive though to how people are feeling and are they okay. I think in the office maybe there's some people who are kind of that natural kind of filmmaker, and you have that going around, and it's just part of business. But I think when you're working remotely, you do have to kind of be more sensitive to proactively do that. So again, it's just recognizing the issues and working out how to address them. And there's certainly no shortage of how-to guides and
Exactly. Yeah.
webinars and seminars about working remotely. So I think we're all going to be experts within 8 weeks.
Yeah, definitely. Thanks, Andrew. Yeah, and I think, and I just gonna one last thing, touching back on what I mentioned in the earlier, that I mean, this again, there's no silver bullet how to do this. You have to talk to your teams and see how they feel. For introverts, maybe this is like the time of their life, right? They can be at home, they can do the thing. For extroverts, maybe they are, that will miss this interaction at the water cooler. But I think there are obviously ways that we can replace that online as well. But yeah, I mean, that has to be, like you say, 3 weeks from now we will probably know more. So.
Yep. So we do have a question coming up from Adrian. He's saying there's over 20 of us now. What's the best way for one of us to share that he or she has something to share as we're all in mute mode? That's a great question, because either we get everyone's really quiet, or everyone jumps in at the same time. There's rarely a kind of a halfway in between point. But I think using the chat is a great way, just as you did. That's good. I know some of the video conferencing solutions also have a raise your hand mode, and it wouldn't surprise me to see that appear in Google Meet sometime over the coming months. So yes, it's a good question. I think some of the platforms have kind of who are there to be purely video conferencing solutions have done that quite well. And yeah, hopefully we'll see all of them develop, I guess partly as a result of this as well. But yeah, good question.
I mean, I've heard rumors that it's in the near future. But I think also, the other alternative would be that, you just unmute yourself and say, hey, sorry, I have a question. That would be the other one. But yeah, it should be in a near future rollout for Meet as well.
Yeah, I think having a good moderator helps as well. And especially if you're working within a company, your company culture of video meetings starts to establish itself. It is a little bit more difficult when you're meeting with people who don't usually meet together and there's no kind of established norms.
Yeah.
Great. Okay, well, we're way over now, so I'm going to have to really speed up my presentation. That's okay. So I'll ask the classic question, can you see my screen? And yes, I know you can, because I've got it on my iPad next to me.
Check that on my bigger sheet.
Yeah. Great, so we call this Ride on Cloud. I guess the objective was that we want to use this downtime as a period to work out, okay, what exactly is cloud and how can we leverage it? So let me start off by addressing, okay, what is cloud? Because we did ask people when they registered for this presentation, are you familiar with cloud or not? And I think the vast majority said they were somewhat familiar, which is interesting, but often there's different perceptions of what is cloud. So I want to make sure we're all on the same page. So I often like to use this analogy when I talk about cloud. And we're talking specifically about computer infrastructure here. But if you compare it to a car, right? And you say, okay, if I wanted to travel from here to go to the supermarket and I didn't have a car, would I go out and buy a car or would I take a Grab? And I won't do a poll on that because I think the answer is pretty obvious. But most people these days would take a Grab. And why is that? It's because if you were to buy a car, it would be extremely expensive. You'd have to maintain the car, you'd have to put fuel in the car, you'd have to drive the car, you'd have to wash the car, and pay taxes on the car. So there's a lot of overhead there and a lot of big capital expenditure. But with Grab, you just call a Grab, you get in, you don't even have to drive it. Of course, you don't have to wash it. You don't do anything. You just pay for your ride, and when you're done, that's it. Car forgiven. So if we take that analogy back to the computer world, traditionally we'd have a server, right? And if you wanted to do anything powerful with computing, you'd have to basically buy the server. So you have to, one, do capital expenditure planning. You have to plan how many servers you're going to need, how powerful they're going to be, how much they're going to cost you over time. Are you going to get ROI on that investment? Then you'd have to find a place to save the server. You'd have to cool them. You'd have to put in the wires. You'd have to secure them. You'd have to install the software. Of course, this is all taking manpower, and you'd have to maintain them. When they went down, you'd have to reboot them. So it's a little bit like having a car. It's expensive and a lot of hassle. And while there may be cases where you need to do that, it's not always the case. So why are we talking about cloud? Well, it's because it's exactly the same as Grab. It's basically a turn-on, turn-off solution. You can get access to the full functionality, in fact, more functionality than you would do in a traditional server simply by going into your browser and logging in. So some of the features of cloud are it's something you can turn on instantly, you can turn off instantly, and you can scale massively. And we're talking there, of course, about computing resources, so computing processing power and storage. So I hope that that analogy sticks with you and it helps you understand when we're talking about cloud, what is everyone talking about. I also wanted to talk a little bit about the difference between these words we often hear, so infrastructure as a service, platform as a service, and software as a service. The reason I mentioned this is when we talk about cloud, especially in the SMB context, many people automatically think of, I'll jump to the bottom one, but software as a service. So that basically means instead of buying software on a CD or a download, I won't say tape because that will give my age away, but on a physical means that's a one-time license. Instead of doing that, you basically buy software on a subscription basis, just like you do with G Suite for productivity, or there's CRM tools like Copper or HubSpot, or there's accounting tools like QuickBooks Online or Xero. So in many cases, when we talk about cloud, many people immediately think of software as a service, but really cloud is much more vast than that. It's talking about infrastructure as a service. So it's really what I was referring to before. It's taking those servers that you use to run and power your business that are more customizable. They're there either to run your business or they're there to provide a service to customers. So when we talk about cloud, we're really talking about the infrastructure as a service. And then there's a kind of another level in between infrastructure as a service and software as a service called platform as a service. The difference between, let me go IaaS and PaaS. IaaS is kind of your traditional server model where you'd get something that'd be totally customizable, but it's hosted in the cloud. So you don't have to maintain the hardware, but you still have to maintain the operating system and what's installed and how it's configured. Whereas platform as a service, the configuration of the servers and how many you need and how powerful they are, all that portion is taken away from you. All that portion of maintenance is taken away from you. So all you worry about is developing and running your application, and there's a lot less maintenance and overhead. So if you look at these as kind of a spectrum from software as a service over at the one extreme, so the right extreme of being totally low maintenance, and then infrastructure as a service being kind of over at the left extreme of still having the power that you need, but requiring a little bit more maintenance and overhead. Of course, the traditional model would be way over at the left, and that's not really a viable model that anyone's using anymore. So yeah, it's important that we understand the wider cloud landscape. And I know for many people on here who are running small businesses that they might be asking the question, okay, why does this apply to my business? And why do we put this in the presentation today? I think the answer to that is that as many of your businesses, you will start off using software as a service, but as your business grows and develops, you'll definitely find the need to use infrastructure as a service and platform as a service, whether that's internally for your own organization or whether it's offering services to your customers. So we hope today that you kind of remember what we're saying here and kind of build this into your thinking as you think about the long-term scalability of your startup. So just to provide a bit of context, just in case you're in any doubt. There's a few stats for you here. So by 2021, over 75% of mid-size and large organizations will have adopted a multi-cloud or hybrid IT cloud strategy. So multi-cloud basically means they're using multiple cloud providers. And when we talk about cloud providers, if we look at the big three, we're talking about Amazon, AWS, Microsoft Azure, and Google Cloud. There's other players as well, such as Alibaba and other niche players. But largely, the three companies I mentioned have taken a large portion of the market globally, and they're really the solid providers that companies look to when they're looking at adopting cloud. Hybrid cloud means that you may use some traditional on-premise. And when I say on-premise, it could be in your office, or it could also be in a data center. That's also counted as on-premise. When we say hybrid, we mean a public cloud provider like Google Cloud, and also on-premise. And why is that? I mean, if I go back to my car analogy and I said, okay, these days, if you wanted to go to the supermarket, you would probably get a Grab. But what if you wanted to take a long driving holiday, or you need to take your kids to work for school every day? In that case, it may make more sense to have a car and own a car. And in the same way, if you have workloads on the cloud that are steady, they're going to just keep plugging away every day. You've already maybe bought the hardware and it's going to last you for 5 years, then it may make sense to keep your existing on-premise hardware. And that's why we see a lot of companies have a hybrid IT cloud strategy. It may also be down to compliance, because while cloud is secure, the regulation may not have caught up, and the regulation may not allow you to host things like personally identifiable data in the cloud if it's not being approved by the legislation you're operating in. So the second stat, by 2022, public cloud services will be essential for 90% of business innovation. That's a pretty amazing statistic. Why is that? It again alludes to the scalability and elasticity of the cloud. Because if you have to pay for a large amount of servers and you have to invest all that money up front, there's no way you can dynamically grow your business and say, like, test a new service for your customers or test a new internal system for your teams, because it's just not practical. It's too expensive and too much overhead. Whereas with a cloud, you can literally log in, start up your server, test it, shut it down within an hour, and you're done, and you pay exactly what you're used for. So it's really a driver of innovation. And of course, we all know about the big data trends. And so by 2025, the sum of the world's data is expected to swell more than 5 times its current size. So data is being generated everywhere, from websites to your own CRM systems internally, from IoT sensors. It's a trend that's not going to go away. And so the only way you can deal with that, there's no way you're going to be able to build your own server farm to deal with that. So you need to rely on experts like Google Cloud that have built the capacity in order to be able to handle this massive influx of data, not just to store it, but also to be able to process and analyze the data. So we've talked about what is cloud. Now let me answer specifically what is. Basically, it's everything you need to build and scale your business. This is just a subset of the services on Google Cloud, but I'd like you to focus on the 5 different pillars here we've got. And I'll start with the compute, storage, and networking, the 3 central pillars there. So the compute and storage, basically that's the brains behind the computer, the things that are going to allow you to process your data. And the storage is how you're going to store your data. Networking is what ties everything together. And all the cloud providers offer these 3 core functionalities. I think we would argue that Google, while it doesn't have the widest range of services, it has maybe the services that are better thought out and better designed. If we look at the left, you've got a management layer. Management layer is super important for maintaining security and reliability. And so that has a stack of its own. But I think where Google Cloud really comes into play is if we look at the right-hand side, and that's the data stack and the machine learning stack. So Google has 9 services that have over 1 billion users. There could be YouTube, Google.com, G Suite, as we talked about, which now has 2 billion users. But obviously, these services are generating a massive amount of data, and Google has basically had to invent technologies to deal with that massive data flow. They're making these technologies available to users through Google Cloud. And so things that just weren't fathomable even just a few years ago for small businesses, like taking mass amounts of data, say from your website, and analyzing that, and maybe doing machine learning models or predictive models on that, and that's now possible. And then if we look at machine learning, we're going to talk a little bit more about this later today, the machine learning and artificial intelligence aspect. Google's invested heavily in these technologies, and there's kind of 3 different layers of artificial intelligence and machine learning. There's what we have called pre-built models that are easy for companies to use. We've got easily customizable models that allow you to build your own artificial intelligence and machine learning. Then you've also got a platform where if you really need to customize and you really need to do unique things, then Google Platform offers you the power and capability to do that as well. So to put that in a nutshell, this is just a subset of the services, but there's hundreds of services like these within the Google Cloud offering that make up what we know as the Google Cloud Platform. So let's look at some use cases for small and medium-sized businesses. So Compute Engine, that's basically a computer in the cloud, but that could be used for hosting your website or application. It could be an internal application for your team, or it could be an application that you're thinking of building and offering to users. So one of the earlier people on the call mentioned they were thinking about some sort of esports application. That's obviously going to require computing power, and Google Cloud is more than likely going to be a good choice for hosting your application. So if you're an IT startup, this is going to be particularly relevant to you. Cloud storage, we all know the trouble that it's like managing a hard disk, and the hard disk gets full, and then you worry about what you have to do with your backup, and if you need a backup of your backup. That was a problem it's been a problem for businesses for many years, even for small businesses, because your data is the lifeblood of your organization. If you have access to scalable storage that you pay for what you use, that is backed up and secure, it's going to give you a lot more stability and a lot more security in running your business. So that's a great case where you can easily get started, pay for what you use, and forget about your backup, knowing that it's there and your data's safe, and you can focus on what you really need to do with your business. App Engine is a platform as a service, and that's for a platform for developing apps without worrying about the infrastructure. So if you're an IT startup and you're looking at getting started for your business, there's probably your CTO, your developer is going to be the main person you have to hire. But if you're not using something that's a platform as a service, you're also going to have to hire someone in kind of the DevOps space that's also responsible for managing your infrastructure if you don't go the App Engine route. So App Engine, while it doesn't give you maybe the flexibility that you need for fully customizable everything, it takes away a lot of the overhead of having to worry about infrastructure. And finally, let's talk about AI and machine learning, because data scientists, data analysts, data specialists are in short supply. Even large companies can't find them and can't hire enough. So there's no way as a small, medium-sized business that you're going to be able to find a data scientist or a machine learning specialist to hire for your business. And so one of the powerful things about Google Cloud Platform is you can take advantage of these technologies without having to find human resources for it. So today I'm going to focus a little bit on what Google calls AI building blocks. And these are the pre-built models that allow you to start to take advantage of artificial intelligence. It goes into 4 different areas. So we've got sight, and I'm going to be giving some specific examples of that today. We've got language, so understanding language and being able to translate language. Conversations, so Google has a technology called Dialogflow that allows you to build chatbots, and then also structured data. So much of the data we have is still in tables. It's still organized. I mean, you may want to build machine learning models on top of that. But if you have to hire a data scientist to do that, it basically means it's going to be very difficult for SMBs to take advantage of machine learning. But with the structured tools within Google Cloud, anyone can, with some basic database knowledge, can start to build machine learning models. So before I dive into talking a little bit more about vision and giving you a specific example, let's ask who is AI useful for? I'll go to the last answer first, but any business that has data, if your business is generating data, one, you need to leverage on that data to improve your own business. That's going to make you more competitive against your competitors, and it's going to enable you to be more. It's going to enable you to offer better services to your customers by understanding their needs and being able to predict what they want and be kind of ahead of the curve. I think we've only just touched the iceberg on this, and I know a lot of people talk about recommendation engines and use Amazon as a good example of recommendation engines. So you go to Amazon, you look at one book, and they recommend maybe you want to buy another book. But I think we're really just touching the tip of the iceberg there. And we'll see that recommendation engines and personalization get way better over the coming years, and that's being driven by data, machine learning, and artificial intelligence. Some of the other companies, so media companies, obviously have a lot of text, they have a lot of articles, they have a lot of photographs, a lot of videos. All can be better leveraged with artificial intelligence. Research organizations, one area my company is particularly focused on at the moment is healthcare, and looking at how we can help researchers leverage all the data that they've collected, and is usually sitting on machines within their organization, that if they wanted to kind of process that offline would probably take weeks and months. But if they leverage the power of the cloud and the power of artificial intelligence, they could do that in a matter of hours. Manufacturers may use artificial intelligence for predictive maintenance, or they could use it for analyzing and understanding historic product catalogs. And then retailers and e-commerce. I'm sure we have at least some startups or SMBs here or in the retail space or in e-commerce. Really being able to personalize your service and offer solutions to your customers, or services or products to your customers that they're interested in, really differentiates you from the competition. And of course, customers expect an omni-channel experience, so they're not just looking at their online experience or offline experience. They want they want retailers to be able to take both of those things into consideration and help recommend better products and better services for them. And then the final one is company with that maybe has a lot of paperwork. So this could be accounting offices, it could be insurance companies. Maybe they haven't fully migrated to a digital strategy yet, and they need to convert that paper into, or they need to get context and sense out of that paper. Or maybe they are already digital, but they just need to categorize and sort and get more context out of the digital data. So basically, if you're out there in the audience and you're thinking, how does this apply to me? I would guarantee for almost anyone, you can find a use for AI. Okay, so I wanted to give you a specific example. So this is, we've talked a lot of theory, but I thought I'd give you a fun example to walk through as well. So let's look at the Vision API. And the Vision API is a powerful pre-trained machine learning model to build valuable metadata into your image catalog. So many companies have built up a large library of images, and those images are usually sitting on a hard drive. There could be thousands of images, tens of thousands, or even hundreds of thousands of images. And maybe they're in folders. That's probably the best sorting mechanism we had to date. But if you want to understand what's in those images, is it text? Is it people? Is it logos or brands? There's no way you could manually do that sorting It would just take too long, it would be impractical, it would be too expensive. But using the Vision API, which is a model that's already built for you, you can easily pump your images into Google and get a lot of context and metadata. So for example, you can assess, okay, is there a face in this image? But not only is there a face, but what's the emotional state? Are they happy? Are they angry? Are they sad? Are they even wearing headgear or not? For text, so we can see the top right photo there. There's text in that image, but that's not something you can copy and paste right into a document. It needs artificial intelligence to recognize that this is text and then to be able to convert that into editable text view. The example at the top left shows that not only does it recognize text, but it's able to recognize different blocks of text and segment that and start to make sense out of it. And then the bottom example is handwriting. So the Vision API engine can also recognize handwriting in 50 different languages as well. And I thought this one was pretty cool as well. But imagine you're a retailer, and again, tens of thousands of images in your image library, and they're all, say, 480 by 640, kind of traditional 3 by 4, I guess roughly around that, dimensions. But your developer's just developed a new website for you, and he says, okay, I need you to supply me all your images, but they have to be in a 2:1 ratio. Okay, so what do you have to do? Do you have to pay someone to go through and change the size of all those images? Again, that's going to be super expensive for you. Or two, do you just apply some automatic cropping to the images? Well, just imagine if you applied some automatic cropping to this image on the top left, and you just took the top half of the image, let's say, you'd completely lose the context of the boy trying to catch the bubble there. So the point is here is that with the intelligence of AI, the engine has recognized that the middle portion with the boy trying to catch the bubble is the important part, and it's intelligently cropped the image, so it's capturing the relevant parts of it, and the less relevant parts have been truncated. A lot of other capabilities as well. So you can get general attributes such as the dominant colors of an image. You can pull out different objects from an image, landmarks, logos, explicit content, which is super relevant if you maybe run a social media site and you want to avoid explicit content appearing on your site. You need intelligence to be able to do that. If you have images and they're maybe paid images, or they are part of your own intellectual property, you want to be able to search the web to find out, one, if those images are appearing somewhere where they shouldn't be, but even if they've been modified and edited, maybe cropped, you want to be able to find them on the web and maybe ask them to be taken down if they're not meeting your the terms of use. And that's another feature of the API. And there's also even one for finding celebrities. So let me break off from there. I feel like I'm talking a lot. I assume you're all still listening. Jimmy, can you give me a thumbs up I'm still listening? I prime this demo. And yep, Jimmy's probably having dinner now.
Exactly, yeah, he left.
Okay, good. Okay, so what I'd like to encourage someone in the audience to do, can someone just find me an image on the web, any image. You can just do a Google search for it, something that could be funny or interesting, and can you post the URL or the web page of that image to me in the chat, just to prove that this is a live demo as well. So Ed Varsi is smiling, but not posting me a image. Okay, so there we go. Saturday Night Live. Thank you, Ed. I'm Ed Varchi or Ed Varkle. So let me see what we've got here. Okay, so I'm going to go to this page that someone sent me, Saturday Night Live. Let's see what images we got here. Okay, I'm going to be challenging. I'm just going to take a whole screenshot of these 6 images because that will give us a lot to play with. Okay, so I've just saved that to my desktop, and anyone can go here. You can go to cloud.google.com/vision, and we can share a presentation with this after. But you can see here, there's a, it's kind of eluding me for some reason. There's a try the API. I'm just going to click on that, and from my desktop, I'm going to upload the image I just took. Okay, there we go. Let me try that again. Upload this from the desktop. Okay, so our image is uploaded there, and I'm going to say I'm not a robot. This is to just prevent people abusing this kind of free trial here. Let's give it a few seconds while it's sent up to Google Cloud and the API engine, and we'll see what it comes back with. Okay, wow. Okay, so what we can see here, we can see a variety of tabs along the top that is that's showing us what we've got. So let me walk you through these things. So the first thing is we can see that the faces have been clearly highlighted here. Let me try and zoom in a little bit so this is clearer. Okay, so we can see it's correctly identified all the faces, except maybe the tiny faces on the packets here. It's correctly identified all of them. Because this is also Saturday night, I think everyone was smiling or laughing, so that we can see that joy is actually very, very likely. And maybe I shouldn't have closed that window, so we can just go back and verify that everyone is smiling here. Yep, I think you can see there most of the faces are smiling. Not sure about Daniel Craig there. It looks a little bit serious. But anyway, overall, I think the engine's done a good job. It's even given us kind of the head roll and the head tilt and the pan here, so you can kind of see what angle people are looking at. So if you say we're looking for a photo from a stock library and you wanted someone looking slightly to the left, slightly to the right, and that stock library provider was using Google's API engine, you'd be able to get exactly that. It also gives you a, okay, see here, it's got face 1. So the faces are actually numbered here. So face 1, so let's see what it does give for Daniel Craig, which is face number 4. It gives you a confidence level of 97%. So face 2 also joy, face 3 joy. Oh, face 4. Yes, obviously a very cold face without much emotion in Daniel Craig there. So no joy, no sorrow, no anger, no surprise. I guess whatever his emotion is, it's not being categorized by Google yet. So that's one example. Let me skip on because I know we're going through time. So if we look at objects, we see here it's pulled out people, it's pulled out clothing. And if we had things, it's not managed to pull out much in this one. Maybe the resolution of the image wasn't too high, but if we had other things like cars or animals in there, it would have pulled those out as well. Let's go to labels. Oh, so it's done a good job. It's actually recognized from this multiple screenshot that it's the likelihood of a television program, which is pretty smart. It's also pulled out technology, but only with a 71% accuracy. I don't know, or a confidence level. I don't know where it got that. Obviously media, electronic devices, not sure where it got that, but games. But these definitely look like games here. So overall, you can see from, even though we've got a mix of 6 different images in here, it's done a good job of pulling out the context. Logos, it's pulled out a logo here. I think that's the wrong one though. It's L&M. Traditional or more common, oh no, there's SNL. More common ones would be like car logos or brand logos like Coca-Cola. It would definitely get those. I'm not sure where it got SNL from. But it's only got a 59% accuracy, so it is saying that we maybe think this is L&M. So I bet if you search the L&M logo, you probably have similar colors, similar font sizes to this. And so the engine would be relatively accurate in what it's suggesting. Oh, so it actually even recognized that it was a screenshot that I'd taken up there. And it's pulled out all the text, as we can see here, and the different paragraphs and different parts of that, kind of down to a very fine level, even the small text down here. Even the logo in the NBC, is it NBC logo? It's pulled out the text there. And that's the cropping I was talking about. So if you wanted to crop the image to 0.8 or 1:1, 1.2, it recommends what the image would look like. I won't open those up now. And it's also given you dominant colors here as well. So color palette for the whole whole image. And finally, safe search. You can see 30, very likely that it's a spoof, but not likely that there's any adult, medical, violent, or racy content in there. So I hope that was a good example of okay, a very practical example of AI, how it can potentially be used in your business. Obviously, this applied to images. But if you wanted to do something with a block of text, there's a very similar demo for the natural language API. Go back to my presentation quickly. We're 5 minutes away, so I'm going to skip over these other examples I had. Just wanted to share a few resources with you, and then we'll leave just a couple of minutes for Q&A. So one, if you want to learn a little bit more about Google Cloud, here's to get started. And we will definitely share this presentation with you afterwards, so no need to memo, but you can take screenshots if you want, or photographs. There's a white paper that's directly relevant to small and medium-sized businesses. There is a site called Grow with Google, where it gives you lots of, and this isn't particularly related to cloud actually, but it helps you grow your business in many ways, looking at kind of digital marketing and other programs that Google has to help you grow your business, not just through times of uncertainty, but this is a regular service by Google. There's a Digital Garage from Google, where you can learn more about digital tools. And then there's even a mobile app, which is quite good, so you can learn about different digital marketing skills on the go. So I'll try and post these in the chat maybe as we're talking as well, but again, we will share the presentation with you afterwards. Finally, don't forget about GBG Singapore. It's a group myself, Jimmy, Pimping, and Shreya run. And so let me jump onto the final slide, because I'd like to leave 5 minutes there for Q&A. And there's also a feedback form here. So if you would be kind enough to scan the QR code or visit the bit.ly link and share your feedback, we'd be hugely grateful for that. And of course, you can connect with myself and Jimmy on LinkedIn and ask us any follow-up questions. And join up to our JBG social media communities, which are linked from our website. I think we have Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitter. And yeah, that's it for tonight. So any questions? Alice, do you maybe have anything you want to add or wrap up for the audience while people are thinking of their questions? We do have a couple of questions here coming in though. I'll hand over to you in a minute. So Eunice is asking, does GBG have any initiatives to help startups, businesses to embark on the journey to implement Google Cloud? So we're a volunteer community. We do organize events when events are possible, and we'll be organizing more events going forward. So please join up to our communities, send us your ideas, send us what you want to know. Today was actually the first time we presented on cloud. Last year we did about developing your own Android applications. And we also do a lot of leadership and soft skill related sessions as well. Google also has something called Google Cloud for Startups. I didn't put the link in here. But if you are a startup and you're supported by a venture capital firm, then it is possible to get startup credits. So you help you get your business kicked off. And they also give kind of mentoring and advice for you as well. And if you join, okay, do you have a follow-up question? If you join some of the communities as well, I think Found8 is one. They're also supported by Google Cloud for Startups, and so you can get some mentoring and support through there. Let me go on to Edvard's question. Can I ask how accurate is Dialogflow's NLP for local nuances? For example, in Singapore, local English can be peppered with Chinese dialects. Okay, that's a really good question. And it's a question that often gets asked in Singapore. So the first thing to say is that there is Singaporean English support within natural language processing. The IMDA also did their own data bank of recorded Singaporean audio. And we did a session with them, and I managed to introduce them to Google for consideration to building that in the technology in the future. I don't know where that's at, but I think it was being considered. I think the key thing is now many of us here are multilingual, and we do mix languages. I spent many years in Japan, so I often throw Japanese into my conversations. And unfortunately, at the current stage, natural language processing is not able to handle multiple languages in one at one time. I'm sure it will come, but it's not there at the moment. I would test out the natural language processing for the Singaporean English and see how you find it. But the technologies are improving all the time, and I think Google is probably the best option if you're looking at language processing. Thanks for those questions. If anyone else has any, feel free to post into the chat.
I know also we had some questions prior to this. I think there was around G Suite. There we go.
There we go, yeah. Alice, are we okay to go over a few minutes?
Yep, we can.
Okay, great. I won't go over too long, or my wife will be shouting me to come have dinner. She'll be patiently waiting for me to finish up tonight. So do I need to patent my idea? This was a difficult question to answer, but because we're not lawyers, so I'll just give my layman's advice. Don't quote me on this, but I would say that the key to starting a business is really to find customers and find markets. If you spend time patenting your idea, by the time you've done that, it's probably too late and someone else has already done that, or you may not have a market. So maybe with very specific technologies, it's something you want to look at, but generally for a general service business, I would say it's not necessary. Jimmy, do you want to add anything to that and then skip on to question 2?
No, I have no good advice on this one. I agree with what you just mentioned.
Okay, maybe you can take question 2 then, staying motivated,
Sure.
Working from home.
Yep. Okay. So I think most importantly would be to set up some kind of routine. Very important. I think also I mentioned about blocking time in your calendar for other things than work. Take breaks, and also to stay motivated. You probably need to have some kind of social interaction online as well. So if you have a team, do somewhat regular, team meetings where you kind of socialize a bit, because otherwise, it's easy to get, to feel lonely and to get depressed or, not motivated. Another quick tip would be to do the 2 easiest things you have on your calendar first thing in the morning, because it gives you a sense of accomplishment and achievement. So that kind of, gets you started and going for the days.
Great, yeah. I'd also, just playing the devil's advocate, I'd encourage you to find work that motivates you and gives you meaning from the start. Because I think if you're very focused and you're focused on what you need to do for your business, then working at home or working in the office shouldn't make a big difference. And then also question why you demotivated working at home. Is it a lack of interaction, or is it something else? And how can you replicate that digitally? So it's understand why you may not be why you may be demotivated and trying to address those specific issues. Hacks using Google Cloud. Actually, here's one I prepared earlier. You can get free hands-on training. This is something that Google's doing as part of their COVID-19 support efforts. Usually this can be quite expensive paid training, but if you register before April the 30th, you get 30 free days access to 3 of Google's learning resources, one of which gives you a really hands-on experience with Google Cloud. It's called Quit Labs. So definitely take a picture of this and try that out while the opportunity arises. And yes, another one I prepared earlier. Hangouts Meet is actually There's an offer on at the moment until the 30th of September. You don't have to pay for Hangouts Meet, so you can get around roughly 5 months free. This is only available for businesses, but it's a great chance to try out Hangouts Meet, and you could contact me or Jimmy if you need more information on that. How to begin a startup.
Where do we start?
Get started, exactly.
Exactly.
Get started in a word, get started, do it, learn as you go. I think that's one for a separate topic, but how to set up G Suite for a non-profit? Do you know the answer to this one, Jimmy?
Yeah, sure. I mean, there are a few ways to do it. They can, contact a Google partner like us, or you can just. I think there's a form on a Google website to fill up, but you need to be able to prove that you are a non-profit, because then G Suite will be for free. So there's some kind of evaluation and process around it with Google. But yeah, we can help you if.
Yeah, I
if
think
you
look into that. But yeah, the information should be available online as well.
All right. Thank you so much, Jimmy and Andrew. So that's the end of our session. Do watch out for our next Scape entrepreneurship programs via our website, social media, or even through our email. Meanwhile, do stay safe and stay home, everyone. Thank you.